In 2002, at the World Cup, Brazil were absolutely castigated by the media, by the president at the time, by the whole country, because they were having a great deal of difficulty in qualifying. And then they brought in Gene Hackman, actually, a bloke by the name of Luis Felipe Scolari, to take over the reins of the squad. And this was a guy that came from a tough part of Brazil. The Grêmio place, Porto Alegre, where Grêmio Football Club play, kind of known as a gritty, hard-nosed, tough guy area of Brazil. And they played, and he changed the whole nature of the team to gritty, hard-nosed, tough guy football. And he was absolutely lambasted by everybody in Brazil. Welcome back to the show. Fifth Street Soccer, Nick Eber and Nick Webster with you. Before we get to tomorrow's picks, a last thought about Brazil, and I'll throw it over to Nick here in a minute. Scolari's tactics paid off big for Brazil that year. Yet somehow Brazil seems to be stuck forever in the era of Jogo Bonito, the beautiful game. No matter who's on the squad, no matter what styles of football are prevalent across the world, they always seem to want to go back to the same type of football, which works sometimes and sometimes it doesn't. It depends. It's like applying World War I trench tactics to a war of mobility now. Nick, are Brazil a prisoner to their own reputation?
Well, yes, in some respects they are, Nick, because we've discussed this many times on the show. You know, there's a certain national identity that you have, and countries seem to bring that to the football pitch. You know, the Uruguayans, they're scrappy, they'll fight for anything. England, it's they'll never say die attitude. The Spanish, the bullfighters, they want to bore you to death, tiki-taka you to death. And then, of course, the Brazilians, they want to play this beautiful football. You mentioned 2002, Big Phil Scolari. An interesting character for sure. You know, what he did have in that 2002 was a certain threesome, namely Ronaldo,
Fat Ronnie,
Rivaldo, and Ronaldinho. And, you know, three wonderful players that really came through in every single game that Big Phil needed them to. But yes, since 2002, really haven't made a big run. Yes, they got to the semi-finals last time out, but that was in their own country. Yeah, you know what? I'm going to agree with you, Nick. I think that they are prisoners of their culture, and I think that's a very hard thing to change. You know, I'm going to go back even further. I remember 1974, just about, and this was the Brazil after 1970, which is considered the finest international side ever. In 74, they went completely away from Jogo Bonito and they became European thugs, and it was all about the physicality of the game, and they didn't do very well. And I think they said to themselves at that point, from there on, no, we're going to play to what our culture demands. And that is why Brazil will have great games. That's why Brazil are loved the world over. But that's probably why Brazil won't win a World Cup again in our lifetimes unless all the stars align perfectly for them.
All right, good input, good insight, Nick Webster. Let's talk about stars aligning in perfect order. If you are a betting man or a betting woman and are enjoying the World Cup and have been placing some wagers and listening to this show, we're going to help you out for tomorrow, folks. We have two games. We have England, Sweden, Croatia, Russia. Why don't we start with let's start with the early game, which is England, Sweden. Take a look here. England are plus 106 to win. Minus 106. They are the favorites. This is the money line. This is regulation time. Sweden are plus 398. The draw is plus 230. The total goals are 2. The over is a plus 101. The under is a minus 116. If it goes to extra time, England are minus 225 to advance. Sweden plus 195 to advance. Nick, this is very much an English football game you're going to be watching tomorrow. Sweden play a 4-4-2. They play very English style of football. Man for man, they are not nearly as good as the English team. Gareth Southgate is not going to play a 4-4-2. He's going to play his wing-back formation, which is going to put a lot of pressure, I think, on Sweden. The danger for England is to get hit on the counter. I think they can handle Sweden. I am an England fan, but I'm not saying this out of passion. I'm saying this out of my brain, which is very rarely done, by the way, for me. But I think England win this in probably in regulation, Nick. It's going to be, I think, a 1-0 game. How do you see it?
Well, I'm with you in that, obviously desperate for England to win. But how about that value for Sweden?
Yeah.
I mean, this is a. I honestly think that this game is a toss-up, and yet you're getting 3-1 on Sweden.
Yeah, almost 4-1.
Almost 4-1. You'd be foolish not to take that bet.
Agree, because you have to ask yourself, Nick, if this match were played 4 times, would Sweden win it once, right?
This match was played 4 times. You only have to look at the last 15 games between England and Sweden. Do you know how many England have won? They've won 2.
Yeah.
They've won twice. Sweden regularly turns over England. And so I hate to say that England are going to get beaten, but and I think that, like you, I think they will win it. But at the same time, I'm thinking to myself, oh, $50 on Sweden wouldn't be such a bad idea.
Well, I agree. I agree. England, I don't think there's any value in England winning the to advance side of this at minus 225. At minus 106, questionable value on regulation as well. Definitely a little speculative bet at plus 398 on Sweden. Although I do think England are going to win 1-0. I don't think this is going to be a very high scoring game. For me, I think you're fairly safe going on the under on this. At minus 116, you've got to decide if there's value there for you. This may be just a match to pass on, or put a speculative bet on Sweden.
I actually like the over in this one because both teams are very, very, very good at set pieces, and I think there's going to be a lot of set piece opportunities in this game. Do you happen to have the first goal scorer? What is Harry Kane for tomorrow? Is he about 5-1?
While you talk, I will look and see if I can find it here. I've got everything here from offsides. Yeah. Offsides,
Harry
goals.
Kane is in great form. He scored in 7 consecutive games, World Cup and friendly internationals, and no player since Jairzinho back in 1970 has scored in every round of the World Cup. So Harry Kane possibly in line to do that if he can find the back of the net tomorrow. He is the danger man, and we'd be foolish not to mention him. I think the other thing for England is, will Southgate, who's very loyal to his players, make some changes? And most notably, people are looking at Dele Alli and Raheem Sterling. Excuse me?
What about Loftus-Cheek?
Yes, Loftus-Cheek for Dele Alli seems to me like it could possibly happen.
Is he going to stay with Raheem Sterling? I mean, I think he would be silly not to. I mean, he's not playing him in the sort of position that Pep plays him in that really gets the most out of him. But Sterling's pace, even though he's kind of seems a little lost at the end of it, his pace does open up space for other players.
Yes, Raheem Sterling, I do like his mobility and his directness. I mean, at the moment, he's very short of confidence. He couldn't trap a dead rat.
Yeah.
But why can't he come good? I mean, and I think that's why Southgate keeps going with him, because he believes that he's going to come good. And if he's going to come good, he's going to come good tomorrow.
Well, we'll find out. Right, let's move along to the next match. So there you have it. Nick and I are going to disagree. I'm going to take the under. Nick's going to take the over. We both think England's going to win, but we in regulation. But we both think that there is value in a small speculative bet on Sweden at plus 398. That is you're crazy not to take a 4-1 on a little $50 or whatever your budget can afford. And by the way, if you're going to place a bet, please be responsible about it. Let's go to the other quarterfinal, shall we? Russia, Croatia. Nick, I would be tempted to say that on paper this looks like Croatia all the way, and the bookies are not necessarily agreeing with us here. because Croatia are a minus 175, which I don't think is a prohibitive favorite to advance. Russia plus 160. People are getting a little wary of Russia. If you look at the 90 minutes plus stoppage time numbers, Croatia are plus 123, Russia plus 309, the draws plus 207, total points at 2. The over is plus 105 and the under is minus 120. Nick, I think this is going to be an over game. I think we're going to see a lot of goals in this game between these two teams. Croatia should win, but I honestly wouldn't be shocked if Russia won this game.
Well, I think there was a general big what happened to Croatia against Denmark. We looked at that matchup and thought that Croatia, after taking Argentina to the woodshed, should just walk through Denmark. But Denmark, proved to be in that typical stereotypical fashion, European, organized, tough to break down, and Croatia had a tough time doing that. And it went to 120 minutes. Yes, Modric did have a chance to win it before the penalty shootout, but he couldn't convert. Russia, meanwhile, well, they hung on for dear life against Spain. But did they hang on? They just had to get in the way because Spain really didn't know where the goal was. Yeah. Someone needs to tell them it's the white thing, posty, with rope around it.
Yeah.
I actually think Croatia will show up tomorrow and they will do the business. And the Russian love-in will come to an end.
Much like it did, Nick, when they faced Uruguay, right?
Yeah. Croatia are a different team to Spain. Croatia have a little bit more about them. I think they're more ruthless. And unlike Spain, who had been world champions in 2010 and half of their squad had already been a world champion, Croatia realized that this is the moment to take. This is, seize the day kind of thing.
All right, so I'm going to give our listeners out there and viewers the bet of the weekend. Here it is, folks. Croatia are plus 123 on the money line for 90 minutes plus stoppage to beat Russia. I like that. I personally am going to take the over on that plus 105. I think, Nick, you were saying you might take the under on that, right?
Yeah, I think it's going to be tight. I could see Croatia winning this 1-0. 2-0 at the most, and 2-0 would be a push, I believe. 2-0
would be a push indeed. All right, so that's where we're going to differ, Nick and I, but we both think Croatia in regulation, and folks, that is some value, a plus 123. You need to take advantage of that while you can. This line is going to change as we get closer to match day, to kickoff. You can get that right now at betanysports.eu. You should go over there, and I'm sure if you look around, you can find those numbers too, but we recommend betanysports.eu. There you have it. There are our picks. England, Sweden. Nick and I both think England will advance. We both like the speculative bet, however, on Sweden, plus 398. We both think Croatia are going to get the business done in regulation, plus 123. We think that's the bet of the weekend. And Nick and I are going to disagree on the over-under. I say over at plus 105. He says under minus 120. If you choose not to bet either one, you can't lose, can you? All right. It's been a great show, Nick. I love this. The World Cup has just kept us going and going and going. And we will be back on the air with you tomorrow, folks, at 2 p.m. Pacific time. That's 5 p.m. Eastern time. I'm sure we'll have Nick Webster on for a segment as well to talk about the England game and the Russia game, because those will have played. So tune in, same network, same place, different time, 2 p.m. Pacific, 5 p.m. Eastern. We're going to step aside, take a break. I want to thank everyone for listening on American Forces, as well as Sports Byline and SB Nation Radios. Don't go away, folks. We're going to wrap it up, though, but we'll be back in 3 minutes.
You're clear.